Welcome back to Unapologetically Visible, the podcast for high achieving Latina and women of color founders who are done being the best kept secret. I'm your host, Christina Olivarez, award winning visibility and leadership coach, TEDx speaker, and founder and CEO of the Social Butterfly Gal and Hustle and Socialize. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month to all who are listening. I'm recording this episode on the first day of Hispanic Heritage Month, and this episode is really in honor of that. I really want to focus on our visibility and our leadership as Latina leaders, because right now, more than ever, it is needed. Before I get into the heart of this episode called The Hidden Cost of Why Visibility is the Most Radical Act for Latinas in Leadership, I wanted to first start with some data and facts to paint the picture of the state of Latino entrepreneurship. These stats are from a survey that was conducted by Stanford Business, specifically Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative, which has just published their 10th annual State of Latino Entrepreneurship report in partnership with the Latino Business Action Network. I will include the links to the study in the show notes below. The survey was conducted over a span of a decade. And in the survey, it found that from 2018 to 2023, the number of Latino-owned businesses in the United States grew over 44%, while the number of white-owned businesses slightly decreased. Latinas are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in this country, while also still being the least represented and least funded. Latino-owned businesses tend to remain smaller than white-owned businesses. They are less likely to generate over $1 million in sales. This disparity has consequences for the entire economy. If Latino-owned businesses had the same average revenue as a white-owned business, it would add $1.1 trillion to the U.S. economy. And adding to that disparity is what we are currently facing right now in 2025. We are living in a moment that feels very heavy for so many of us. Politically, economically, socially, it feels like everywhere we turn, there's instability, fear, and pressure. And if you are a Latina or women of color in leadership, you've probably have felt that tension. Many of my clients come to me asking this one question: how do I stay visible at a time like this? Many of my clients, specifically those who are Latino owned and Latina founders, are feeling the need to go quiet. And that reasoning is valid. Many folks in our community fear visibility and the pressure of speaking up due to immigration status, judgment from their family, or fear of retaliation. All of this is very real and valid and shouldn't be taken lightly. But if you are in a position to be visible, I want to remind you that as a Latina and women of color founder, our visibility is the most radical act we can commit to right now. Here is what we will dive into during this episode. I'm going to walk you through why our visibility is a radical act in this moment. I'm going to tell you the hidden costs of invisibility, the things that we don't always name out loud, but are silently draining our money, our credibility, our peace, and even our legacy. I'm going to share the exact coaching strategies and modalities that I use with my private coaching clients to help them stay visible and aligned when everything in the world feels like it's pushing them to disappear. And I'm going to give you tangible, practical steps you can take this month to reclaim your visibility, even in small ways, so that you don't just hear this message, but you actually live it out loud. So grab your cafecito, settle in. This episode is going to be raw, personal, and it's for every Latina leader who's ever felt the weight of being seen. I want to talk about my visibility for a moment. Anytime I go speak at conferences or events that are outside of my city and state, I always love to include a slide on my presentations that says, "Started from the South Texas border and now we're here." Because it wasn't until I left my hometown region of the Rio Grande Valley that I became so proud and filled with pride of the region that built me and raised me. And it saddens me of all of the misinformation and misunderstandings about the Rio Grande Valley to this day. Growing up, I noticed that in the field of journalism, there were not a lot of journalists who look like me or being represented on a national scale. And even from a CEO and entrepreneur lens, just forget it. No one looked like me. A Latina CEO who paves her own destiny, creating her own job from her imagination, who doesn't conform or cares to be put in the box? Who is that? Well, that person is me. My environment wasn't one where Latina CEOs were common. I didn't grow up seeing women who look like me running their own companies or building platforms, building their own empire, or taking up space as a thought leader in their industry. All I ever knew and all I ever saw was a bunch of tough hombres. I was 24 when I had my first initial thought about entrepreneurship and owning my own company. And even then, I still wasn't sure if entrepreneurship was for me. At that time, social media was just starting to become recognized as a real tool for marketing in business. Not everyone believed in social media and its power. Some people thought that social media platforms were just good for selfies or to let us know what each of us was eating that day or just for fun. But I saw the potential for the good that social media platforms could bring. I saw that if you could build a personal brand online, you could create endless opportunities that didn't exist for you in your immediate environment. It is really unfortunate that social media and the voices that the algorithms have amplified over the last decade haven't been for good. When I started showing up online, building the social butterfly gal in 2015, people always didn't get it. Some doubted me and dismissed me, and some even thought, who does she think she is at 24 showing up like this? Being young, Latina, from the South Texas US Mexico border, all of that already carried weight. And when I started to add my visibility and my voice to that, it felt like a super radical act. Every time I posted or showed up as my unapologetic self, every time I used my voice to speak out and use my platform for good, leading with my values, mission, and vision, I wasn't just building my own career path. I was building possibility for other Latina and women of color leaders who hadn't seen themselves yet being represented. And that's when it clicked for me. My visibility was never just about me. It was about all of us collectively. And that's the truth that I want you to hear today. Because if you are listening to this podcast, if you are a Latina leader right now, chances are that you are feeling that tension too. You know that you're being called to be visible, but you've also felt that cost. There are hidden costs that we pay every time we stay invisible. And I want to name those costs for you. There are 5 hidden costs: financial costs, emotional costs, credibility cost, cultural cost, and the generational costs. Let's go through these one by one. First up, the financial costs. When you're invisible, people can't pay you. That's that simple. Bottom line. Opportunities pass you by. Clients are not able to find you. Speaking engagements and partnerships tend to go to someone else. And it's not because those other people were more qualified than you. It's because they were more visible. I've coached thousands of women over the course of my entrepreneurial career who've built incredible businesses, but have hit a revenue plateau because they weren't willing to be visible. Many of them didn't do social media content. They thought that they were protecting themselves by staying hidden because they were fearing of criticism and judgment from strangers on the internet. But what they were really doing was leaving thousands of dollars on the table. Then comes the emotional costs. Let's be real. When you are trying to hide or code switch, that is exhausting. Editing yourself in every room or deleting posts before you hit publish, holding your tongue when you want to speak, it really wears you down. And here's the kicker. It takes more energy to be someone that you are not and to hide your full self than it does to show up fully as your unapologetic self. I see it in my clients all the time. They come to me feeling burned out, drained, and frustrated. And once we start peeling back the layers, it's when we realize that it's not because they're doing too much. It's because they are doing too much of shrinking themselves. Imagine how different it would feel to walk into a room and not have to code switch or to police yourself. To speak without the mental gymnastics of how is this going to land or am I too much? That's the shift that visibility brings. Then we move into credibility costs. When you're not telling your story, someone else will. When you don't define your message or your voice, people start making assumptions of who you are. And usually they don't get it right. I've seen a lot of leaders lose control of their narrative because they've stayed quiet for too long. By the time they tried to speak up, Their story had already been written for them. I also have another podcast episode about the same topic, online perceptions versus real life, that you can find in the show notes below. And then there is the cultural costs. Our communities lose representation and they lose the voice. And in 2025, when the fear is super loud, when people are actively trying to silence us and our communities, we must make a commitment to not stay silent. And lastly, the biggest cost of them all, the generational costs. This one cuts deep. Every time we hide, we are teaching the next generation that visibility is dangerous, that leadership isn't safe for us. And I refuse to pass that down. I want the next generation of Latina and women of color leaders to know that our visibility holds power. Taking up space is our leadership right, and that our voices are worthy of stages, boardrooms, podcasts, and big paychecks. That's why I say all the time, visibility is how we protect our power. So how do we push through this? How do we stay visible when everything around us is telling us to be small? This is the part I love because this is what I coach my clients on every single day. I always coach my clients through values-led visibility. Right at the beginning of our coaching relationship, I always coach my clients to get clear on their mission, vision, and what their brand stands for. It's really important that before you post and speak on a stage or walk into a room, that you anchor yourself in your values. I want you to literally say this out loud. What do you stand for? How does that shape the work that you do and the people that you do it for? And why is it important? When you root yourself in your values, your visibility stops being about validation, likes, or followers, and it becomes about what you're building, what you're protecting, what you're committed to, and your impact. Then we do a lot of identity recalibration. A lot of the fear around our visibility comes from the past traumas that we have around speaking up, and as well as our former versions of ourselves. I coach my clients to start recalibrating, to ask who they are now versus who they were before, and what leader are they becoming. How can your visibility reflect this version of who you are now versus the person that you were 3, 5, 10 years ago? Because when you start recalibrating your identity, your visibility becomes congruent, and that's when it clicks. Then we move into nervous system alignment. This is the part that a lot of people, especially leaders, underestimate. Visibility is physical. Think about it. Every time you go live, sometimes your heart starts racing. Or when you think about stepping on stage, sometimes your palms sweat just even thinking about grabbing the microphone. And you might feel a pit in your stomach anytime you are thinking about posting a specific video or post. So with my clients, we work on nervous system regulation through breath work and grounding practices, as well as on-camera presence activations. We ground ourselves in rituals that will help you stay steady even when your body interprets visibility as a threat. Because when your nervous system is calm, you can lead from a place of power versus a place of panic. Lastly, we look at platform building. Listen, we cannot wait for mainstream media to hand us a mic. We have to build our own platforms right now. That's why I love podcasting. That's why I also love speaking. And that's one of the reasons why I created Hustle and Socialize. Because platforms create permanence. They create a place where your voice cannot be erased. And I'm so proud to say that since Hustle and Socialize 2025, 4 Latinas have launched their own podcasts. That's 4 more voices out in the internet webs, shaping narratives, amplifying our culture, and rewriting what leadership looks like. When one of us shines, we all rise. Here's what I want to ask you. Where are you shrinking right now? Is it in your content or your leadership in your own business? Is it your pricing, your offers, or your voice? I want you to name it out loud right now. And then ask, what is this invisibility costing me? Is it costing me money, peace, credibility? The example that I want to set for my children, my community, or my team? Feel that pull in your body. Because until you calculate the costs, it's easy to justify staying hidden. And now I want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to take action this month on one or all of these things. Number 1, I want you to write and post one values-driven statement. You can start with, as a Latina CEO, I believe in, and finish that sentence. I want you to post it on every single platform that you have, and don't overthink it. I also want you to record a 2-minute story or video and share why you started your business and why your visibility as a Latina leader matter. Don't script it. I want you to say it from your heart. I also want you to amplify another Latina's voice. Look at your followers and see where you can share their own podcasts, their business, their story, because our visibility is collective. And lastly, I want you to audit your last 30 days of content. Look at every single reel you've posted, video, story, Instagram post, and ask, does this reflect my leadership and my values? Or am I hiding behind surface level posts? I want you to then commit to raising the depth of one piece of content this week. If you resonated with this episode, here's what I want you to do next. Subscribe and leave a review, because that helps this podcast reach more women like us, women who are never meant to stay hidden, women who are meant to be highly visible leaders. Share this episode with someone who you love who is questioning their own visibility. And DM me on Instagram at the Social Butterfly Gal. Tell me your biggest reframe or your biggest breakthrough from today's conversation. And if you're feeling the call to go deeper, to recalibrate your personal brand, leadership, and visibility, I would love to support you through one-on-one coaching. You can find the coaching information and offers in the links in the show notes below, or send me a DM with the word coaching, and I'll personally walk you through what offers are in alignment with your current season and what it looks like to step into your next era with clarity, confidence, and unapologetic authority. Thank you for being here and for listening and for all the shares and reviews. And happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Remember this, you didn't come this far to play safe. You came to be unapologetically visible. I'll see you next week.